Husband dragged wife at dinner. After his dad humiliated her unaware, she was the secret billionaire who just bought his dad's company. He didn't just walk her out, he dragged her in front of everyone. On the very night his father mocked her at the family's grand dinner, he gripped her wrist, scraped her chair across the floor, and left her dignity behind the clinking glasses. "You don't belong here, Emily, you're embarrassing us. Leave." Those were the words Daniel chose while his father smiled. Instead of defending his wife, he handed her to humiliation. Instead of love, he chose pride. He believed she was small, powerless, easy to forget. But what he never knew was that the woman he shamed was the quiet owner of a storm, the secret billionaire behind Aurora Holdings, the buyer who had already taken his father's company without a sound. Sometimes the person dragged from the table returns to own the room. This is not just another dinner gone wrong. It is the breaking of a cruel tradition, the rise of a woman they tried to erase, and the calm power that ends empires with a whisper. Dear viewers, thank you for being here. If you watch without subscribing, it is like letting her voice be silenced again at that table. When you click that button, you stand with every woman mocked, every partner betrayed, and every quiet heart that chose to rise. Please subscribe now. And in the comments, share where you're watching from. The alarm rang at 5 a.m., slicing through the quiet like a blade. Emily Carter's eyes opened instantly. She didn't flinch or sigh, she simply reached out, turned it off, and sat up straight. Her movements were graceful, precise, almost trained. The kind of discipline that didn't come from habit alone, but from years of responsibility no one could see. Steam drifted from the cup of black coffee she made herself. No sugar, no cream. She stood by the kitchen window, watching the faint lights spill across the small, suburban backyard. Her reflection shimmered on the glass. Perfect posture, calm face, hair tied in a neat twist. To anyone passing by, she was just another quiet wife preparing for another ordinary day. But the heavy silver watch hidden under her sleeve told another story. It was a limited edition Patek Philippe, a piece that could buy the entire neighborhood if sold. No one in this town knew who Emily truly was. Not her neighbors, not her husband, not even his father, who liked to remind her often that she married up. Emily Carter was 32, the founder and CEO of Aurora Holdings, a multinational investment firm that quietly owns several industrial companies. She built it from nothing after her parents' small business collapsed when she was 19. The pain of watching everything they worked for vanish had taught her one rule: power should be quiet, and quiet power was what she mastered. But that morning, something different lingered in her eyes, a kind of still tension. She stood at the counter, phone in hand, staring at a message from her assistant, Grace. "All acquisition documents are ready for signature, ma'am. Just need your confirmation before the dinner." Emily typed back, "Proceed. Make sure everything remains under Aurora's name." Her finger hovered before pressing send. She thought about Daniel, her husband. Daniel Carter, 34, was the kind of man people described as nice but uncertain. He was kind to strangers, charming in public, but easily swayed by stronger voices, especially his father's. Richard Carter, CEO of Carter Industrial Group, had built his company with old money and even older pride. He saw Daniel's marriage to Emily as a downgrade, convinced she was from the middle of nowhere. Emily pressed send. The message went through. "Does your husband know?" Grace texted back within seconds. Emily smiled faintly, the kind that hides both sadness and confidence. "He will," she replied, "when it matters." She placed the phone down gently and took a deep breath. The morning light turned golden as Daniel walked into the kitchen, still adjusting his tie. His shirt was slightly wrinkled, his hair tousled, but his grin was bright. "You're up early again," he said, reaching for toast. "You work harder than anyone I know, even without a boss breathing down your neck." Emily looked at him, her expression soft. "Old habits," she said. "They die hard." He laughed and kissed her forehead. "You should relax more. Tonight's a big deal, Dad's birthday dinner. Let's make a good impression, yeah?" There it was, the word impression. It always came before one of his father's dinners. She nodded, pretending not to notice the small tremor in her chest. Daniel didn't mean harm. He loved her. She knew that. But love, she'd learned, wasn't always strong enough to stand up to pride. Your father's expecting us at 7? She asked. He nodded. Yeah. Try not to wear anything too, you know, simple. He'll be looking for something a bit more expensive, she finished gently. Daniel hesitated. He just has certain expectations. Emily smiled faintly and looked down at her hands. Of course. Her silence made him shift uneasily, but he didn't apologize. He just took another sip of coffee, already glancing at his phone. After he left for work, Emily walked back to the bedroom. She opened the wardrobe, rows of neatly pressed dresses in soft pastels. At the end hung a single deep emerald gown, silk, simple cut but elegant. She brushed her fingers along it, remembering the last time she wore it, her company's founding gala 5 years ago. A quick flash of memory. Standing under bright lights, shaking hands with investors, smiling at the camera. Her name printed on magazines beside the headline, "The youngest woman to own an industrial empire." She blinked, and the image faded. The quiet, the house returned. She whispered to herself, "He doesn't need to know that version of me. Not yet." Her phone buzzed again, Daniel's text. Dad said to bring that coworker of mine, Megan. You've met her before. She's helping with the new project. Don't mind her if she talks a lot. Emily's thumb froze over the screen. A faint, unreadable smile curved her lips. She typed a simple reply. Of course, I'll see you there. She set the phone aside, her gaze distant. Outside, the golden morning softened into haze. Then softly, almost like a whisper to herself, she said, After tonight, things will never be the same. The kettle clicked off behind her, the room falling into silence except for the faint buzz of her phone screen lighting up again. It was Grace. All done, ma'am. Carter Industrial Group now officially belongs to Aurora Holdings. Emily's calm expression didn't change, but her eyes told a different story. And in the stillness of Dessa, that quiet morning, something powerful had already begun. That evening, at the dinner table, silence would cut deeper than words, and one man's pride would ignite a humiliation that no one would forget. The restaurant shimmered with gold light and murmurs of laughter. Crystal chandeliers hung above a long mahogany table set for 12. It was the kind of place that smelled of money, quiet, aged, and proud. Emily Carter walked in on Daniel's arm, her emerald dress glowing softly under the lights. She smiled politely at the waiter, at the guests, at the silence that followed her entrance. Every eye turned toward her, assessing her, including Richard Carter's. Richard, the patriarch, sat at the head of the table. 60 years old that night, built from iron will and an ego twice as heavy. He rose halfway when they approached, clapping Daniel on the back. Son, he said warmly, before glancing at Emily with a polite, cold smile. And Emily, his tone carried the weight, twos of judgment more than welcome. At Richard's left sat Megan Hayes, Daniel's co-worker. Early 30s, red dress, perfectly curled hair. She leaned close to Richard, laughing easily. Her perfume drifted through the air, expensive and deliberate. She looked at Emily like someone who already knew too much. Ah, you must be Megan, Emily said kindly. Megan smiled with just her lips. Yes, Daniel talks about me all the time at work. Emily's gaze flickered, only for a second, before she pulled out her chair and sat. Dinner began. Polished silverware clinked. Waiters moved silently. For a while, conversation was simple business, travel, stocks. Emily remained quiet, listening, hands folded in her lap. Then Richard leaned forward, his glass of wine halfway raised. So, Emily, he said, tell me again what you do these days. Daniel mentioned consulting. She smiled faintly. Yes, I work in finance consulting, mostly private investments. Richard laughed, loud enough for the whole table. Consulting? My dear, that's what people say when they don't have real jobs. A few guests chuckled nervously. Daniel looked down at his plate. Megan tilted her head, her voice smooth like honey but sharp underneath. Maybe she's just between projects, Richard. Happens to the best of us. Emily's face didn't move. Her eyes, calm and deep, didn't flinch. She set her fork down slowly and dabbed her mouth with a napkin. I suppose so, she said softly. Some projects just take longer to finish than others. Richard leaned back, satisfied that he'd made his point. That's the trouble with marrying outside your circle. No ambition, no understanding of how business works. The laughter that followed felt heavy, forced. Emily's gaze drifted downward, then caught a folder near Richard's hand, a sleek black binder with the gold letters, Carter Industrial Group, Confidential Annual Report. Her eyes lingered for a moment. She knew every figure in that report, every signature, every hidden clause, because it was hers. But she said nothing. She simply lifted her glass, calm and composed. To family, she said quietly, and to the lessons it teaches us. A few clinks followed, uncertain. Daniel avoided her eyes. Megan smirked behind her glass. Richard smoothed his tie. The silence that settled wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, waiting. And beneath the polished table, Emily's hands trembled just slightly. Because she knew something they didn't. This dinner wouldn't end the way they imagined. Across the table, Richard's voice rose again, louder this time, sharper. His next words would shatter everything. Richard's fork hit the table with a sharp clink. "I'll tell you what I think," he said, voice booming across the room. "Daniel, this woman doesn't even belong in this family. She's holding you back." The air froze. Guests stared, forks midair, breath caught between shock and pity. Emily's eyes lifted slowly. "That's enough," she whispered. But Richard wasn't finished. "Enough? I'm speaking the truth. You've done nothing for this family, Emily. You don't even have a proper career. Look at you living off my son's name like a—" Daniel stood up suddenly. "Dad, maybe we should—" Richard's hand cut through the air. "No, Daniel. You've worked hard your whole life, and she brings you nothing but shame." The sound of the room dimmed, replaced by a heartbeat in Emily's ears. Her face remained calm, but her eyes burned with quiet disbelief. "Richard," she said softly, "respect is something earned, not demanded." That line was her mistake. Richard's jaw locked. "Don't you lecture me about respect in my own house." Daniel's hand slammed on the table. "Enough." Everyone jumped. The room fell dead silent. Daniel turned to Emily, eyes wide with anger, fear, confusion. He felt the weight of his father's stare pressing down on him like chains. "Let's go," he said coldly. "You've embarrassed us enough tonight." Before she could reply, he grabbed her wrist. Her chair screeched against the floor as he pulled her away from the table. The guests looked down, pretending not to see. Megan's lips curved into something between guilt and satisfaction. Emily didn't resist. She just looked back once, her gaze landing on Richard's hand, resting on that company binder. As Daniel dragged her toward the door, the thin bracelet on her wrist slipped loose. It fell quietly onto the floor, rolling until it stopped near Richard's shoe. He glanced at it. Just a bracelet, he thought. But if he'd looked closer, he would have seen the tiny engraved logo. Aurora Holdings. Outside the dining room, the hallway stretched in silence. Daniel's grip loosened. He exhaled hard, guilt already mixing with anger. "Why couldn't you just keep quiet?" he said. "Why do you always make it harder?" Emily looked up at him, her voice calm but low. "I didn't make it harder. You just made it smaller." He blinked. "What?" But she didn't answer. She simply pulled her wrist from his hand and walked toward the exit, leaving him standing in the dim hallway caught between his father's pride and his wife's silence. Inside the dining room, Richard bent to pick up the bracelet, turning it once in his fingers before setting it aside. A faint frown crossed his face. Later that night, that same bracelet and the name engraved on it would return to haunt him in a way he never saw coming. The night air was sharp as Daniel shoved the restaurant door open. The sound of it slamming echoed down the marble hallway. Emily followed quietly, her heels clicking against the floor. The laughter from the dinner still rang behind them, muffled, cruel. "Why couldn't you just respect my family?" Daniel's voice cracked like thunder. He turned to her, his face red, hands clenched. "You always have to say something, don't you? You couldn't just smile and nod for once?" Emily stood still under the glow of the parking lot lights, her face pale but calm. Her voice, when she finally spoke, was soft, almost fragile. "I didn't disrespect anyone, Daniel. I defended myself. That's not how it looked." He ran a hand through his hair, pacing. "You embarrassed me. You embarrassed my father." Her eyes glistened, but she didn't let the tears fall. "Your father humiliated me in front of strangers. And you let him." Daniel froze for a second, his chest rising fast. but instead of answering, he turned away. His silence was heavier than any insult. She took a small step forward. "Do you even know what that felt like?" He didn't look at her. "I know I'm tired of being in the middle of this. You and my father are always—" Her voice cut through him like a whisper of pain. "I wasn't fighting your father, Daniel. I was protecting your wife." For a moment, there was nothing but the sound of wind passing through the trees. Then Daniel sighed and walked toward the car. "Just get in," he muttered. Emily followed quietly. Inside, the car filled with the cold silence of two people who had loved each other once deeply and were now strangers pretending to stay calm. As Daniel started the engine, his phone lit up. A message banner flashed on the screen. "Megan, he's right. You deserve someone who fits your world." Emily's eyes caught the name, but she said nothing. Her gaze shifted out the window, watching the city lights blur into streaks of gold. She didn't need to ask. The ache in her chest already knew the answer. The drive home was wordless. The only sound was the rhythmic hum of tires against the road, steady, mechanical, distant. Flashback. 2 days before the dinner, Daniel and Megan sat at a quiet bar near the office. Empty glasses glimmered under dim light. She leaned close, her voice silky and understanding. "She doesn't see how far you could go, Daniel," Megan whispered. "You have your father's gift, but you're always trying to please someone who doesn't understand ambition." Daniel had smiled, drunk on both the wine and her validation. "Emily just likes things simple." Megan's hand brushed his. "Maybe too simple for a man like you." Her words lingered even now, echoing in his mind as he drove louder than Emily's silence beside him. When they finally pulled into the driveway, Emily opened the door slowly. The porch light flickered, casting long shadows across the yard. She stood for a moment, looking at the man she once believed in. "Good night, Daniel," she said quietly, her voice steady but distant. He didn't answer. He only stared down at his phone again, the screen glowing with another message from Megan. Emily turned and walked toward the house, her expression unreadable. Inside, behind her calm, something had begun to shift. The woman who once stayed silent was now listening, learning, remembering. And before dawn, when Daniel slept soundly beside his buzzing phone, Emily would make one final call that would change every name written on his father's empire. The front door slammed behind Emily with a hollow echo that filled the entire house. The sound was sharp, final, like something breaking that couldn't be fixed again. Her shoes hit the floor one by one as she stepped inside, steady but exhausted, every motion precise, deliberate. The house was quiet, too quiet. Daniel's voice had already faded upstairs. He'd gone straight to bed without another word. That was how he handled guilt, by pretending it didn't exist. Emily stood in the hallway for a moment, still in her emerald gown. The faint scent of his cologne drifted from the staircase, mixing with the soft ticking of the clock. She walked to the mirror near the door. Her reflection, stared back, calm face, smudged mascara, eyes still burning from everything unsaid. Slowly she reached up, removed her earrings, and wiped away her makeup with one clean swipe. Her voice came quietly, almost like a whisper to her reflection. "They saw a nobody. That's what I wanted them to see." The words lingered in the empty air like smoke. She turned away and walked down the hallway, past framed photos of simple smiles, her and Daniel on their wedding day, laughing under fairy lights, another of them at the lake, his arms around her shoulders. Each one felt like a stranger's memory now. In their bedroom, she moved to the wardrobe, sliding her hand behind a row of neatly hung clothes. Her fingers pressed against a smooth panel at the back. With a faint click, it opened, revealing a small hidden compartment built into the wall. Inside was a neatly organized collection of documents, sealed folders, and silver-bound notebooks. On top lay a leather portfolio stamped, with gold letters, "Carter Industrial Group, Acquisition, Final Phase." She took it out, laying it gently on the desk. The air seemed to shift. The quiet house no longer felt small. It felt vast, powerful, like she was standing inside the center of something enormous. Her phone buzzed softly. She picked it up without hesitation. Caller ID, Grace Turner. Grace was her personal assistant, loyal, discreet, and one of the few who knew the truth. Emily answered, her voice calm. "Grace." "Ma'am," Grace said, her tone respectful but trembling with excitement. "The transfer just went through. You now officially own Carter Industrial Group. For a few seconds, Emily didn't respond. She just breathed slow, controlled. Then she smiled, though her eyes glistened with something between triumph and heartbreak. Then it's time they see who they mocked. Grace hesitated. Do you want me to prepare the public notice? Not yet, Emily said softly. Let them sleep. Let them believe they still own the world. She hung up and placed the phone beside the documents. The screen's faint light cast a soft glow across her wedding ring, a reminder of everything she'd chosen to hide for love. Her gaze drifted to the window. Outside, the night stretched endless and quiet. For the first time, she didn't feel small in it. Instead, she felt like the storm that would change everything when morning came. She reached for the bracelet she'd found earlier, the twin to the one that had fallen at dinner. The engraved Aurora Holdings logo caught the moonlight as she placed it carefully beside the acquisition file. Her voice barely a whisper. Tomorrow, Daniel. Tomorrow you'll know who I really am. Then she closed the hidden drawer with a soft click. The sound echoed down the hall, sharp, certain, final. Upstairs, Daniel turned in his sleep, unaware that the woman lying beside him no longer belonged to his world. Downstairs, Emily's phone buzzed again, one unread email glowing on the screen. Shareholder meeting invitation, Carter Industrial Group, Friday, 7 p.m. And with it, the stage for revenge was set. The conference room lights blazed bright and cold, throwing sharp reflections off the glass walls. Papers rustled, pens clicked, and the air was thick with tension, the kind that only existed when money and power were on the line. Emily Carter stood at the head of the table, calm as stone. Across from her sat three people: her assistant Grace Turner, her legal advisor Martin Hale, and her financial strategist Olivia Park. All of them watched her in quiet anticipation. Everything is finalized, Martin said, sliding a stack of documents toward her. Carter Industrial Group is now under full control of Aurora Holdings. The words hit like the sound of a gavel. Final. Irreversible. Emily's fingers brushed over the papers, her expression unreadable. For weeks she had planned this: every call, every transfer, every silent move. And now, sitting beneath the white glow of that boardroom, the empire that once belonged to her father-in-law rested quietly in her hands. Do you want me to release the acquisition notice? Grace asked softly, her eyes flicking up from her tablet. Emily looked out the window instead. Below them, the city glimmered like 1,000 scattered stars, each light a reminder of the world that never noticed her before. Not yet, Emily said. Let them have their calm before the storm. The room fell into silence. Flashback. 3 weeks earlier. The sound of rain against the car window had been soft that night. Emily sat in the back seat, laptop open, the glow from the screen lighting her face. On the call was Martin, the legal advisor who had been with her since her first company. Are you sure you want to do this quietly? He asked. It's a hostile takeover in all but name. Emily's tone was steady. It's not hostile, Martin. It's justice. Grace, seated beside her, had nodded with quiet conviction. Aurora Holdings will stay as the proxy, right? Emily smiled faintly. Yes. No one will trace it back to me, at least not until I decide they should. Martin's voice came through the speaker, cautious but respectful. And if they find out too late? Then, Emily said, closing her laptop, they'll finally understand what respect costs. The rain outside blurred the city lights into rivers of silver. Her reflection in the car window stared back, calm, patient, dangerous. Now in the present, Emily leaned back in her chair, lost for a moment in memory. Her mind replayed the dinner. Richard's mocking voice, Daniel's silence, Megan's smirk. Each face, each insult, had pushed her closer to this moment. Grace's voice broke the silence. You really want to stay anonymous? Emily looked at her, eyes steady. Not for long. Let's announce it. At the annual shareholder gala. Olivia blinked. That's next week, right? Friday night? Emily reached into her purse and pulled out an elegant cream envelope, the invitation Richard had sent Daniel earlier that morning. The embossed gold letters gleamed under the light. Carter Industrial Group Annual Shareholder Gala. Venue, the Regal Room. Emily smiled slowly. It was the same restaurant where Richard had humiliated her. Perfect, she said. They chose the right place to learn humility. Grace exhaled, half in awe, half in disbelief. You're planning to tell them there? Emily nodded once, her voice soft but razor-sharp. In the same room where they tore me down, they'll stand to applaud me. The clock on the wall ticked loud, deliberate, final. Emily reached for her pen, signing the final authorization page with a calm hand. "Schedule a meeting with the board before the gala," she said. "No leaks, no hints. This has to hit them. All at once." Martin gathered the papers carefully. "Understood." As they stood to leave, Emily stayed seated for a moment, looking down at the table. Her reflection glimmered faintly on the glass surface, two Emilys, side by side, the woman they thought was powerless and the woman they were about to meet. She whispered to herself, they wanted a lesson. Let's make it unforgettable. The sound of her pen clicking shut was the only sound in the room. That night, as Emily left the office, her phone buzzed a message from Daniel. "Dad says we might be losing investors. Something about a new buyer named Aurora Holdings. Do you know anything about that?" Her lips curved slightly. The storm had begun. The elevator doors burst open to the sound of raised voices. Papers flew across the marble floor, phones rang non-stop, and the once proud office of Carter Industrial Group was drowning in chaos. Daniel Carter rushed through the lobby, confusion on his face. The employees, who used to greet him, now avoided his eyes. Someone whispered his name as he passed. Another murmured, "Did you hear? The takeover went through." He froze for a second. "What takeover?" No one answered. He hurried toward his father's office, pushing open the glass doors without knocking. Inside, the tension was thick enough to choke on. Richard Carter stood by the window, his phone pressed tightly to his ear, voice low but sharp. "I don't care what the board says. Find out who the hell this Aurora Holdings is." Daniel blinked. "Dad, what's going on?" Richard slammed the phone down and turned, his face red with fury. "We've been blindsided. Some new company, Aurora Holdings, just bought controlling shares of Carter Industrial Group overnight." Daniel frowned. "That's impossible. Who could afford that?" Richard's jaw clenched. "Someone very quiet and very rich. And they've been planning this for months. Every move was hidden under shell. Corporations, we didn't see it coming." The old man's voice cracked for the first time Daniel could remember. "They now own 51% of the company, Daniel. I don't even own my own name anymore." For a moment, silence filled the room. Then the door opened, and Megan Hayes stepped in perfectly dressed, confident, too calm for the chaos around her. She carried a folder under her arm and smiled faintly. "Good morning, gentlemen," she said. "The news is spreading. The employees are nervous, the investors are panicking. Everyone's asking who the new owner is." Richard glared at her. "Do your job, Megan. Manage the communication team." She gave a small nod, but her eyes drifted to the large digital notice board on the wall. A name flashed across it, Aurora Holdings Limited, bold and final. Her smirk faltered. For a split second, something in her expression changed confusion, even fear. Her mind flickered back to that dinner night, to the bracelet that rolled under the table. The engraved letters she had noticed, Aurora Holdings. It couldn't be. But before she could speak, Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder, trying to sound confident. "Whoever they are, they'll want us to stay. We're too valuable to fire. Right, Dad?" Richard didn't respond. He just looked older, smaller somehow, his empire slipping away piece by piece. Megan forced a smile. "You're right, Daniel. Maybe they'll even promote you." Her tone carried something almost mocking now, a mix of bitterness and denial. Daniel smiled weakly, unaware of the unease behind her words. "Exactly. This is just business. It'll settle." But nothing was settling. Across the floor, Richard's secretary rushed in with a trembling hand, holding a letter. "Sir, this was sent from the new owner's office." Richard snatched it and tore it open. His face drained of color as he read aloud. "Effective immediately. The Carter Industrial Group board is to convene under new leadership this Friday. Attendance mandatory." "Friday?" Daniel repeated. "That's the same day as the shareholder gala." Richard nodded slowly, eyes still on the letter. "Whoever this is, they're making it personal." Megan shifted, trying to steady her breath. "Aurora Holdings," she whispered. "Why does that name sound so familiar?" Richard ignored her and slammed his fist on the desk. "Find them, Daniel. I want to know who's behind this before Friday night." Daniel straightened, trying to look strong. "Don't worry, Dad. I'll fix this." He walked out. Megan following close behind. As the elevator doors closed, Megan turned to him. Daniel, if this Aurora Holdings is who I think it is, you might not want to know the truth. He gave a quick laugh, brushing her off. You worry too much. People like that don't come after families like ours. Her voice dropped lower. That's exactly what scares me. In his office, Richard picked up the fallen bracelet from his desk, the one he had kept since the dinner. The engraved logo caught the light again. Aurora Holdings. For the first time, he realized it wasn't just familiar, it was identical. He stared at it, frozen, the sound of the ticking clock echoing like thunder. At that same moment, across town, Emily Carter stood before a mirror in her office, rehearsing the words she would speak at the gala, the words that would make the Carters' world collapse completely. The sound of applause roared through the grand dining hall as chandeliers shimmered above the guests. The Carter Industrial Group annual shareholder gala was in full motion, a night meant to celebrate legacy, power, and wealth. Every table gleamed with silver cutlery, crystal glasses, and golden centerpieces. The scent of expensive perfume filled the air. At the front, a massive banner hung proudly, Carter Industrial Group, 60 years of excellence. But beneath that grandeur was tension so sharp it could be felt in the air. Richard Carter stood at the podium, smiling, his voice calm but tight. Tonight, he began, we celebrate the strength and tradition of our company, a legacy my family has carried for generations. His hand trembled slightly as he held the microphone. The takeover by Aurora Holdings had shaken him, but he was determined to pretend control. Daniel sat near the front, his tie perfectly straight but his nerves unraveling. Megan sat beside him, her smile bright but uneasy. Every so often, her eyes darted toward the door. Something about the night felt off. Before we continue, Richard said, I want to assure everyone that Carter Industrial remains strong, the very heart of this nation's industry. Our investors, the double doors at the back opened with a soft, deliberate click. Every head turned. The room fell into sudden, stunned silence. Emily Carter stepped through. She wore a black silk gown that shimmered under the lights, every step graceful and controlled. Around her wrist was the same bracelet Richard had once picked up, the one engraved with Aurora Holdings. The quiet became almost holy. People whispered. Some gasped. Daniel's fork slipped from his hand, clattering against the plate. Emily? He whispered, barely believing it. She didn't look at him. Her steps echoed as she crossed the marble floor, her gaze fixed on the stage. Richard's face drained of color. What is she doing here? He muttered, too low for the microphone to catch. Emily reached the podium, her calm expression unbroken. She turned to the host, who stood frozen beside Richard. May I? The man hesitated, then handed her the microphone. Good evening, she said, her voice smooth and clear. I'm honored to join you tonight. A few guests exchanged confused looks. Others leaned forward. Emily paused for just a moment, letting the suspense stretch. Then, she smiled faintly. On behalf of Aurora Industrial Group, the new parent company of Carter Industrial, I'd like to officially welcome you all. The words hit the room like thunder. A single glass shattered somewhere in the back. Someone gasped aloud. Richard's face turned white. His lips parted, but no words came out. Daniel stood up suddenly. What are you talking about? His voice cracked. Emily turned toward him, her gaze calm, steady. Exactly what I said. Richard's voice trembled with anger. This is absurd. You couldn't possibly. Oh, but I could, Emily said softly. And I did. She placed a folder on the podium, the official merger documents. The company seal gleamed under the lights. The transaction was finalized weeks ago. Aurora Holdings acquired controlling shares quietly with every signature approved and verified. Your lawyers can confirm. A ripple of whispers swept through the audience. Phones came out. Screens lit up. Megan's eyes widened as she remembered the bracelet. Aurora Holdings. She had seen it that night, she just hadn't looked close enough. Emily continued, her voice calm, almost kind. I didn't come here for revenge. I came here for truth. Some of you laughed at me when I was just the wife with no career. Others told me I didn't belong. She looked directly at Richard, her tone soft but unshakable. I was never beneath this family. I simply stood quietly while you built walls of pride. Richard swallowed hard. You tricked us. No, Emily interrupted. I tested you. Then her eyes shifted to Daniel. He looked lost, eyes glossy, hands shaking slightly. Daniel, she said gently, you taught me what respect looks like when it's gone. The line hung in the air, a soft blade cutting through silence. Tears welled in his eyes. Emily, please. She looked at him for a long moment, pain flickering beneath her calm. Then, she stepped back from the microphone. To everyone here, she said, turning toward the audience again, let this night remind you never measure a person by what they show you. Sometimes the quietest one in the room already owns the floor you're standing on. Applause didn't come right away. The silence stretched heavy, humbling. Then slowly a few claps began. They grew, echoing through the hall, until the entire room was applauding her, the woman they once dismissed. Richard sank into his chair, face pale, hands trembling. His empire, his name belonged to the woman he'd humiliated. Megan lowered her eyes, realization dawning like fire. Daniel whispered her name one last time, his voice breaking. Emily. She looked down at him, her expression unreadable. You'll understand, soon enough. Then she turned, walking away from the podium, the bracelet catching the light with every step. The applause faded behind her. The camera flashes glowed, like stars. She pushed open the same doors she had entered through, never looking back. As the doors closed behind her, Daniel stumbled after her, calling her name. In the hallway, his voice echoed, desperate and raw. And for the first time, he realized the woman he dragged out in shame was now the one who could destroy or forgive him. The heavy doors slammed open. Daniel burst through them, his voice echoing down the long marble corridor of the hotel. Emily! Guests in the hallway turned their heads, whispers rising like smoke. He didn't care. He ran past them, breath ragged, tie half undone, desperation etched into his face. At the far end of the hall, Emily walked calmly, her heels tapping against the floor in slow, steady rhythm. Her black gown trailed behind her like a quiet storm. Emily, wait! Daniel's voice cracked. Please listen to me. She stopped, but didn't turn. The chandelier light glowed against her hair, outlining her like a silhouette, carved from glass. He took a few steps closer, voice trembling. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know it was you, Aurora Holdings. All of this. Emily turned at last, her eyes meeting his. They were calm, but there was something in them that made him step back, something unreadable, powerful, and heartbreakingly distant. You didn't need to know who I was, she said softly. You just needed to treat me right. The sentence hit him harder than any shout could have. Daniel's mouth opened, but no sound came. His throat tightened, his hands shook. Around them, guests began to gather quietly near the ballroom doors, the same people who had seen the public revelation minutes earlier. Emily, he said again, voice breaking. I made a mistake. I was scared. My father, he pushed me into. Her voice cut through him like silk and steel. Your father didn't hold your hand that night when you dragged me out. You did. He froze. Her words replayed in his mind, pulling him back to that dinner, her silent face, his grip on her wrist, the sound of chairs scraping the floor. It all came rushing back, louder than ever. Daniel's breath came shallow now. He reached toward her, but she took a step back. You let them humiliate me, Daniel, she continued quietly. You stood there and said nothing. Tears filled his eyes. I didn't know how to protect you. I was wrong, please. And then slowly his knees gave out beneath him. The crowd gasped as Daniel Carter, the proud son, the businessman, the husband who once dragged his wife through shame, fell to his knees before her. His hands clutched at the floor, his voice shaking. I don't care about the company, or the money, or any of it. I just don't leave me like this. Emily stood still. The sound of his voice trembled against the silence, the same silence she had endured for years. Her eyes softened for just a moment, but then she drew a quiet breath. This isn't about leaving you, she said. It's about finding myself. The words echoed off the marble walls. Behind them, Richard Carter appeared at the ballroom doors, looking hollow, smaller than anyone had ever seen him. His empire had been taken, his pride stripped bare. And beside him, Megan stood frozen pale, terrified. Richard turned to Megan, his voice low and cutting. Get out. You're finished here. She swallowed hard, her voice barely audible. "Sir, out!" he barked, and she fled, her heels clattering across the floor. For a brief moment, Megan's gaze met Emily's. No words passed between them, only a silent acknowledgement that the game was over. Daniel still knelt, his head bowed. "Please, Emily," he whispered. "Don't walk away. I can change." She looked down at him, her expression unreadable. "You already had the chance," she said quietly. "You just didn't take it." The murmurs around them grew, but Emily didn't seem to hear them. She turned, walking toward the exit. As she passed a tall mirror in the hallway, her reflection split two Emilys side by side. The woman who once begged for respect, and the woman who now commanded it. For a moment she paused, staring at her reflection. Her hand brushed against the cool glass. "I lost myself once," she whispered, barely audible. "Not again." Behind her, Daniel remained on his knees, surrounded by everything he thought mattered: power, reputation, family, all of it now meaningless. He lifted his head, tears streaking down his face, watching her walk away. "Emily!" he shouted one last time, his voice cracking. She didn't turn back. The doors opened before her with a soft hiss, and the night air rushed in cool, free, and silent. She stepped outside into the glow of the city lights, her expression calm but unreadable. The faint sound of her heels faded into the distance. Inside, Daniel collapsed fully onto the floor, covering his face. Around him, the guests whispered in disbelief, the mighty Carter name now reduced to echoes of regret. And in that silence, the last image of Emily in her black gown lingered like a haunting memory, the woman they broke, now whole again. Outside, as Emily reached her car, her phone buzzed with a single message from Grace. "It's done. The final documents are signed. You own everything." Emily looked up at the night sky and whispered, "Then it's time to let go." The morning sun spilled across the skyline, golden light cutting through the glass walls of the Aurora Holdings office. The city was waking, but inside, Emily Carter was already at her desk, composed, steady, and completely in control. Her desk was clean except for a single folder marked Women's Empowerment Fund, Launch Phase. The logo of Aurora shimmered faintly on its cover, the same one once engraved on her bracelet. Her assistant, Grace Turner, entered quietly, holding 2 cups of coffee. "It's official," she said softly. "Every last signature is done. Carter Industrial is now fully merged under Aurora." Emily looked up, a faint smile touching her lips. "Good," she said. "Now we build something better, something that doesn't destroy people to prove strength." Grace nodded, emotion in her eyes. "You did it, Emily." Emily turned toward the window, watching the city bathe in sunlight. "No," she murmured. "I just stopped letting others define me." For a moment, silence filled the room, not heavy like before, but peaceful, the kind of silence that heals. Then her voice came again, calm and steady, like a reflection spoken aloud. "I built my life in silence. I lost it in noise. But when silence spoke again, it was powerful enough to end empires." Her gaze drifted to the edge of her desk. There, lying in a beam of morning light, was the bracelet, the same one that had fallen at that dinner table long ago. She picked it up gently, turning it between her fingers. The reflection of the Aurora Holdings logo glowed inside the silver band, completing the circle. Emily smiled, whispering to herself, "Dignity is louder than revenge. Don't mistake humility for weakness. It might just own your world." Unaware of her $20 million jackpot win, husband took his poor wife to a party and left with another woman, because she seemed richer. What she did next shocked him. He didn't just ignore her. In a bright, crowded party full of glittering dresses and fake smiles, he walked away from his wife, left her standing alone near the exit, and wrapped his arm around another woman because she looked richer. While people whispered and phones recorded, Daniel Taylor smiled proudly as he led Vanessa, the woman in the shimmering gold dress, out of the hall, leaving his poor wife behind like she was nothing. That same morning, Mia Taylor had burned her hand ironing his only good shirt, trying to make him look important. She sewed torn fabric, hid her old shoes under the bed, and told herself love was worth every sacrifice. A week earlier, in their small, quiet home, she had checked a lottery ticket she'd bought on a whim and realized her numbers matched the winning draw. She didn't fully understand the process yet, but the shop clerk had said the lottery office would send official confirmation if it was real. Terrified and hopeful at the same time, she slipped the ticket into her old Bible, the only safe place she owned, too scared to tell a man who already cared more about status than her heart. That morning, a golden envelope from the lottery office arrived and would soon make her knees weak. Official confirmation that she was the winner of $20 million. At the party, he told people he was not really married. He laughed with Vanessa about luxury boutiques and powerful connections. When Mia checked her phone, she saw his text. "Don't wait up. Vanessa needs a ride home." He thought she would go home, cry, and stay broken. He thought she would always be the silent, poor wife in the background. But what Daniel never knew was this. The woman he abandoned at that party was holding a secret worth $20 million, and she was done staying quiet. Dear viewers, thank you for being here. If you watch without subscribing, it's like letting Mia's courage fade into the background again. When you click that button, you stand with every quiet heart that finally decides to fight back. Please subscribe now and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The iron hissed sharply in the quiet room, so loud, so sudden, it felt like an alarm. Mia Taylor, 32 years old, small-framed and soft-spoken, jerked her hand back as the scorching steam burned her skin. A red mark spread across her palm instantly, but she pressed her lips together, refusing to cry out. She didn't want to wake Daniel. He hated morning noise. The iron hissed again, matching the rush in her chest. She lowered it quickly and stared at the shirt she had been fixing. Daniel's only good dress shirt, worn so thin that the fabric almost turned transparent under the light. She had patched it 3 times already. The thread she used today didn't match perfectly, so she carefully angled the iron to hide the flaw. Daniel always noticed flaws, not his own, only hers. Mia moved quietly, as if walking on eggshells, folding the shirt with gentle precision. This wasn't new. For 7 years of marriage, she had become an expert at solving problems before they reached Daniel's eyes, fixing shoes before he tripped, mending shirts before he complained, paying small bills before he panicked. She did it because of a promise she once made, a promise that haunted her more than it helped her. She remembered it clearly, even now, even in this quiet morning. It came from a night years ago, back when they were still new, still hopeful, still full of dreams. Daniel, now 34, once held a job he loved. He walked with confidence, laughed easily, and looked at her as if she was his whole world. Then the company collapsed. Overnight, he became unemployed. The shock crushed him. She saw him staring at the walls for hours, refusing food, refusing comfort. He had whispered one night, voice shaking, "I'm failing you. I'm useless." Mia had taken his hands and said the worst promise she ever made. "You will never feel like a failure again. I'll carry whatever you can't." That vow became her chain, a chain she forged link by link, every time she took on extra shifts, every time she hid overdue notices, every time she encouraged him even when he belittled her. Her inheritance, what little she had, was already gone. Her mother had left her a tiny savings fund, a few sentimental pieces of jewelry, and an old Bible. Those had kept her and Daniel afloat during his darkest year. She pawned every piece, even the bracelet her mother once said would stay with her forever. It didn't stay. Daniel needed new shoes. Daniel needed tools for a side job. Daniel needed to look successful again. And Mia had needed to honor her vow. The only thing she still had was the Bible. It became the place where she kept anything precious she couldn't afford to lose. Small notes, old photos, and, a week ago, the lottery ticket she'd bought on a whim. The corner shop had scanned it and told her the system showed a high-value match, but that the main office would send a formal letter if it was really a jackpot. She had gone home with her heart racing, slipped the ticket carefully between the thin pages, and closed the Bible like she was locking away a storm. She didn't know if keeping the possible win secret made her selfish or finally smart. As she gently finished folding the shirt, her old shoes, scuffed at the toes and patched at the sides, peeked from under the bed. She had worn them for 4 years, Buying new ones always felt wrong when Daniel needed things more. A floorboard creaked behind her. Daniel. His footsteps were sharp, like he walked to cut through silence, not pass through it. He entered the room, tall, tense, already frowning though the sun had barely risen. His voice carried that familiar edge, the one that made her shoulders instinctively shrink. "You're up early again," he said, not grateful, not impressed, almost irritated. "I just wanted to fix your shirt," Mia replied softly. He snatched it from her hands, inspecting every stitch. "Everyone at work has classy wives," he muttered. "I can't be the only one who looks like he married someone from a garage sale." The words stabbed, but she lowered her eyes, hiding her hurt. A knock came, soft, almost shy. Mia turned. The mailman slipped an envelope through the door. An envelope with a golden seal. Her heart jumped. The lottery office. She moved quickly, picking it up before Daniel could see. She slid it under a pile of laundry, pretending she hadn't even looked at it. But Daniel caught the nervous tremble in her fingers. "What was that?" he asked, suspicious. "Just a bill," she said quickly. He scoffed. "More money we don't have. Great." He walked away, already focused on the evening. "Remember I told you, there's a big networking party tonight. I need everything to be perfect." As he left the room, Mia exhaled shakily, whispering under her breath, "If only you knew." Extreme cliffhanger, plus foreshadowing of scene 2. The camera lingers on the hidden envelope. Mia's hand hovers over it, her fingers trembling, before she pulls away, terrified of what the truth might change. But she doesn't notice. Daniel's shadow is standing right behind her, watching, listening, and already assuming she's hiding something. Secrets don't stay buried for long, especially when money becomes part of the story. The bathroom door slammed shut behind Mia with a force she didn't intend. Her heart was pounding so fast it felt like it wanted to escape her chest. She pressed her back against the cool door, breathing hard, clutching the golden-sealed envelope in both hands as if someone might snatch it away at any moment. The intensity didn't fade. Her fingers trembled as she tore open the envelope. Too fast, ripping the side. A single sheet slid out and fluttered to the floor. She dropped to her knees. The letter stared back at her, loud and unbelievable in the small, cramped bathroom. "Congratulations, Mia Taylor. You are the confirmed winner of $20,000 million." Her breath hitched, her mind spun, her whole world tilted. Mia pressed a trembling hand over her mouth to quiet the gasp fighting its way out. The bathroom was the only place Daniel never followed her into. He hated tight spaces. That made it her only safe space. But the walls felt like they were closing in now. She whispered, voice cracking as tears filled her eyes. $20 million. What am I supposed to do with this?" The question echoed around the bathroom like a confession she shouldn't have made. For days, she had carried the secret possibility that the ticket might be worth millions. The shop's scanner had hinted at it. But this letter didn't say maybe. It said confirmed winner. There was no more pretending this was small. The moment she said the number, memories rushed in like a flood she wasn't ready for. She saw herself as a child, sitting at a kitchen table with bills spread out like fallen leaves. Her mother's hands shaking as she tried to stretch every dollar. Her father repeating, "We just have to get through this month." Her mother telling her, "Money doesn't make life easier, Mia. It just makes life louder." Her mother showed her a tin box and said, "Always save, even when it hurts. One day, that habit will save you back." Mia carried that lesson into adulthood like a shield. On her last day alive, her mother whispered, "Money reveals who people really are." Now sitting in the bathroom with $20 million in her hands, those words felt like prophecy. Her heart tightened as another memory hit her. Fresh, painful, undeniable. Just last week, Daniel had asked her to co-sign a loan for another business idea. When she said no, worried they'd lose the house, he exploded. He slammed his fist on the table, shouting that she never supports him, that she was holding him back. Then he walked out and didn't come home until after midnight. She remembered sitting alone on the couch, wondering if he was punishing her. That night she realized something. Daniel didn't want partnership. Daniel wanted power. If she told him about the money now, he would see it as his lifeline, not hers. And deep down, though she tried to ignore it, she feared he would stop seeing her as his wife and start seeing her as a prize. So she folded the letter and placed it gently back into the envelope, holding it close to her chest. Mia wasn't greedy, she wasn't selfish, she wasn't playing a game. She was protecting herself for the first time in years. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Mom, what do I do?" A tear rolled down her cheek. She wasn't crying because she won money. She was crying because she knew, somehow deep in her bones, that this money was going to expose every crack in her marriage, and she wasn't ready for that truth. A loud vibration broke the silence. Her phone lit up on the sink. Daniel. She swallowed hard and reached for it. A text appeared. Daniel. "We're going to a party tonight. Try not to look cheap." Her hand went cold. A million thoughts hit her. He already cared about appearances. He already compared her to others. He already shamed her for looking poor. What would he do if he knew she was worth $20 million? The phone buzzed again. Daniel. "And don't make this night about you. I need to look good." Mia wiped her tears, stood slowly, and faced the mirror. The woman staring back looked tired, but under the tiredness was something else. A quiet strength she hadn't seen in herself for a long time. She slid the envelope against her chest for a moment, then tucked it carefully out of sight, close but hidden. As she reached for the bathroom door, ready to face Daniel, a faint sound came from outside. Daniel's voice, talking softly, laughing, flirting, on the phone. Then she heard him say, "Yeah, the party tonight will have real people, not like her." Mia froze. The envelope near her heart felt heavier now. Tonight, appearances will break more than hearts. The moment Mia stepped out of the bathroom, the intensity hit her like a slap. Daniel stood in the bedroom, shirtless, surrounded by 3 suits flung across the bed. He wasn't calm. He wasn't patient. He was frantic, moving from one suit to another with the desperation of a man trying to become someone he wasn't. "Do I look like someone important?" he demanded before she could even breathe. His voice was sharp. His eyes were hungry, hungry for approval, not from her, but from the world he wanted so badly to impress. Mia froze in the doorway, still shaken from hearing him flirt on the phone minutes earlier. She kept one hand near her pocket, feeling where she had briefly held the envelope, now safely hidden away again. She wasn't ready to confront him, not yet, but her silence felt loud. Daniel grabbed a navy suit and held it up against his chest. "No, maybe this one," he muttered. "I have to look successful tonight. People will be watching." Extreme intensity filled the air. His movements were fast, impatient, almost irritated that she wasn't already complimenting him. He turned suddenly. "Which one? The navy? The gray? The striped one? Come on, Mia, help me look like someone important." His words cut deeper than he realized. Mia stepped closer, her voice soft. "You always look fine, Daniel. I need to talk to you about something important." He didn't hear her. He wasn't listening. He was too busy standing in front of the mirror, pulling at the sleeves of a charcoal suit jacket. He didn't notice her tired eyes. He didn't notice her shaking hands. He didn't notice the secret that had just shattered her understanding of their lives. All he saw was himself. Mia took a slow breath. "Daniel, something happened today, something big." Still nothing. He brushed dust from the shoulder of the jacket, tilting his head. "Tonight's party is full of people who matter," he said, as if talking to the mirror instead of her. "I need to look sharp. I need people to see me as someone worth talking to." He turned, expression tense. "I need you to behave, okay? Don't make me look small." The words landed like cold stones in her chest. Her mind flashed back years before. She remembered a time when Daniel wasn't like this. A late afternoon at his old job, the one he lost. She had stopped by to bring him lunch. She paused outside the open break room door and overheard him speaking with a coworker. His coworker asked, "Does success scare you?" Daniel laughed confidently. "No, success is who you're standing next to." Those words echoed now. Back then, she thought he meant her. Today she realized he never meant her at all. Status, appearance, validation. That was what he valued. Not love, not loyalty, not her. Daniel snapped his fingers. "Mia, are you even listening? I said I can't look small tonight. Don't wear anything that makes you stand out in a bad way. You know how you get nervous. Just try your best not to embarrass me." Mia swallowed hard. She was done ignoring her own voice. "Daniel," she tried again, slower this time. "I said I need to tell you something serious." He sighed loudly, annoyance dripping from every word. "Not now, Mia. I'm under enough pressure already." "But," he cut her off with a raised hand. "Not now, just look presentable. That's all I ask. We can talk later." Her heart sank. It wasn't just that he wasn't listening. It was that he didn't even consider the possibility that she might have something worth saying. Mia stepped back, defeated for the moment. She walked toward her dresser, opened the top drawer, and pulled out the golden envelope. For a moment she held it between her fingers, just enough to feel its weight, its meaning, its danger. Then she slipped it into the far back corner of the drawer, beneath old scarves, beneath forgotten memories. She closed the drawer slowly, almost ceremoniously. It felt like closing a door inside herself. Daniel didn't notice. He was too busy adjusting his tie. Extreme cliffhanger, plus subtle foreshadowing of scene 4. As she walked away, Daniel muttered under his breath, thinking she couldn't hear, "If I play my cards right tonight, everything will finally change." Mia froze. His words weren't meant for her. They weren't about her. They were about who he hoped to meet. She stared at him, realizing the truth she didn't want to face. Tonight wasn't about them. It was about him, and someone else he planned to impress. At the party, the cracks will stop hiding. The moment Mia and Daniel stepped through the tall glass doors, the intensity slammed into her like a blast of heat. Music pulsed, lights shimmered. People in long gowns and sharp suits turned their heads, slowly, deliberately, giving Mia and Daniel the kind of stare that sliced instead of touched. This was a networking gala hosted by one of Daniel's old industry contacts, an event where favors were traded with smiles and business cards, not invoices. Daniel straightened instantly. His whole body changed. His shoulders lifted, his walk lengthened, his face pulled into a smile that looked polished but hollow. He leaned toward Mia without looking at her. His whisper was sharp, cutting through the noise. "Try to stand up straight, you're slouching." The words hit her harder than the room's glare. His hand pressed lightly on her back, not affectionate, but corrective, guiding her like an accessory he wanted positioned correctly. He looked at everyone except her. His eyes darted around the room, searching for approval, searching for faces that mattered. Mia's heart beat slower as she tried to adjust her posture. She already felt out of place. She wore her best dress, simple, navy, neat. It wasn't new, but she had ironed every seam and smoothed every wrinkle. She wanted to support him tonight, to be beside him, even if he didn't seem to want the same. But now, under the heavy lamps and swirling gowns, her dress felt too plain, her shoes too worn, her hair too simple. The room smelled faintly of expensive perfume and champagne. Every woman seemed tall, graceful, glowing. Every man carried a confidence that came from old money or new deals. Daniel felt the pressure, and when he felt pressure, she always felt blame. He whispered again, voice low with frustration, "Please, Mia, just don't draw attention." She swallowed hard. "I'm trying," she said softly, but he didn't hear her, or maybe he didn't want to. Somewhere in the back of her mind, she thought of the drawer at home, closed over the golden envelope. The knowledge of the $20 million sat there like a locked door in her chest. No one in this room knew, not even the man walking beside her. That was when Mia saw her. A woman entered the room wearing a shimmering gold dress that caught every ray of light. She moved with practiced elegance, dripping with jewelry that sparkled like small suns. Her hair fell in waves, her makeup flawless, her presence loud without a single word spoken. This woman was impossible to ignore, and Daniel didn't even try. His smile froze mid-sentence. His eyes followed the woman in gold across the room, tracking her every step. It wasn't subtle, it wasn't accidental, it wasn't innocent, it was hunger. Mia felt a coldness spread inside her chest. Not jealousy, recognition. She recognized that look. She had seen him use it before, years ago, when he first fell in love with her. Now he used it for someone else. She didn't know the woman in gold yet, but she would. Later, the truth would surface. The woman wasn't rich. She was drowning in debt. But tonight, she looked like everything Daniel wanted. As they walked deeper into the room, Daniel began greeting people with forced charm. "Good to see you again. Congratulations on your promotion. Yes, this party's impressive, isn't it?" He acted like someone rehearsing a role. Mia stayed at his side, quiet, patient, trying to belong, even though the room made it clear she didn't. A couple approached them, a tall man and a woman holding a tray of champagne glasses. The woman looked at Mia's plain dress, her old shoes, her nervous smile. Then the woman asked with a polite but dismissive tone, "Hi, are you with catering?" Mia froze, surprised. Her cheeks flushed hot. Before she could answer, Daniel gave a stiff laugh. Too quiet, too awkward. He didn't defend her. He didn't correct the insult. He just looked away, as if pretending he didn't hear anything was easier than explaining who Mia was. The woman waited. Mia finally said softly, "No, I'm with him." The woman raised her eyebrows, muttered, "Oh," and walked off. Daniel didn't even look at Mia. The music swelled, conversations grew louder, and Daniel stepped forward, eager to mingle with people he thought were influential. Mia trailed behind, like a shadow trying to keep up with a man who didn't want to be seen with her. She touched the small clutch in her hand instead of any hidden paper, grounding herself with the feel of its rough edges. Inside, tucked away with her phone and a tissue, was nothing more than her ID and a few coins. The real power, the truth about the $20 million, remained locked away at home. She whispered to herself, "If only you knew." But the noise swallowed her words whole. Just then, across the room, the woman in gold turned. Her eyes met Daniel's. She smiled slowly, like she recognized ambition when she saw it. Daniel smiled back. Mia saw it, and for the first time, she felt something shift inside her, something cold but steady. As Daniel walked toward the woman in gold, Mia stood frozen. The betrayal had begun, and he didn't even notice. What breaks at this party cannot be repaired later. The betrayal didn't begin with a whisper. It began with an explosion. Daniel suddenly clapped his hands once, loud, sharp, impatient, cutting through the music around them. "I'm going to get drinks," he said quickly, already stepping away. Extreme intensity filled Mia's chest as she reached toward him. "Wait, Daniel..." But he didn't wait. He didn't even glance back. He moved fast, weaving through the crowd like a man starving for attention, leaving Mia standing alone in the middle of a room filled with people who only cared about wealth and shine. His disappearance was so quick, it felt rehearsed. Mia swallowed the sting in her throat. She stood still for several moments, forcing air into her lungs, pretending she wasn't already hearing the laughter of well-dressed strangers around her. Slow into reflection. Minutes passed. 5, 10, 15. Still no sign of Daniel. Each minute felt heavier than the last, pressing her deeper into doubt. She replayed every moment of the night in her mind. Him telling her to not embarrass him. Him staring at the woman in gold. Him ignoring her voice all day. Him criticizing her posture, her dress, her existence. She tried to be patient. She tried to be understanding. But her heart whispered the truth. He wasn't getting drinks. He was getting something else. Finally, when her legs could no longer hold the weight of waiting, she moved. She walked slowly through the party, scanning faces, looking for her husband. What she found made her stop cold. The betrayal. Daniel stood near the back of the hall, laughing. Laughing the way he used to laugh with her, back when she was the center of his world. He wasn't alone. Next to him stood the woman in gold. Vanessa. Character introduction. This was Vanessa Hale, 29 years old, known in the local fashion circle for her stunning looks and dramatic social media posts. She was the type of woman who walked into a room and expected everyone to look at her. She was drowning in debt but dressed like she owned the world. Daniel didn't know any of that. He only saw the jewelry, the glow, the confidence. She touched Daniel's arm lightly as she laughed. Her voice was warm, flirty, practiced. Daniel was hooked. Mia watched from a distance, feeling something inside her chest slowly unravel. Logic fix. Daniel's behavior is set up earlier. He told Mia, "I need to be seen with the right people." Now he was proving what right people meant to him. Mia took a small step forward, close enough to hear them. Daniel leaned in toward Vanessa. "So tell me about you," he said in a softer voice he rarely used with Mia. Vanessa smiled proudly. "I'm starting a luxury boutique, high-end clients, custom pieces. You know, the kind of business for people who appreciate quality." Daniel's eyes lit up. A dream flickered across his face, one he never expressed to Mia, but hinted at many times. He wanted a classy, glamorous life. He wanted to stand beside someone shiny. People like Mia didn't shine. They worked. They endured. They carried burdens quietly. Vanessa in her gold dress sparkled under every light. The lie. Then Mia heard it. Daniel introduced himself with a low laugh. "Me? Oh, I'm not married, not really." Vanessa's eyebrows rose in interest. "Oh, so who's the woman you came with earlier?" Mia's stomach twisted. Daniel shrugged, chuckling. "Just someone I know. Nobody important." The words sliced deeper than any blade. Vanessa didn't question it. She took his arm, smiling with the confidence of someone who knew she had caught a man's attention. Intensity returns. Mia's breathing quickened. Her hands shook as she stepped forward, ready to confront him. But right as she opened her mouth, Vanessa said sweetly, "Come on, Daniel. Show me the balcony." "I want some air." Daniel nodded eagerly. Their arms linked. Their heads leaned close. Their steps matched. And Mia stood there, frozen, unable to speak, unable to move, unable to understand how the man she once loved could so easily pretend she didn't exist. Her eyes filled with tears, not the loud kind, but the silent kind that burned without falling. People around her noticed. They watched. They whispered. But no one helped. No one defended her, not even her own husband. As Vanessa and Daniel disappeared toward the balcony, Mia's phone vibrated in her hand. A text appeared on the screen. "Daniel, don't wait up. Vanessa needs a ride home." Mia stared at the message in disbelief. Her heart cracked. Her fingers tightened around the phone. And right then, behind her, someone whispered, "Did you see him leave with her?" Poor woman. He's not coming back tonight. Some heartbreaks don't break you. They force you to open your eyes. The moment Mia stepped toward the exit, the intensity hit her like a punch to the chest. People were whispering. Phones were out. Eyes followed her, pitying, judging, entertained. It felt like the whole room knew something she wasn't ready to admit. And then she saw why. Near the open doors that led toward the balcony corridor, a man in a gray suit, mid-30s, party guest, phone raised high, was recording Daniel and Vanessa leaving together. He wasn't a friend or an enemy. He was just someone who loved drama more than decency. On his phone screen, Daniel's arm wrapped eagerly around Vanessa's waist. Vanessa leaned her head on his shoulder. They looked like a couple escaping the world together. And Mia looked like a forgotten shadow left behind. The whispers grew sharper. "Isn't that his wife over there? Oh no, he really left her. Poor woman. Imagine being abandoned like that." Each word sank deep into her skin. Mia felt her knees weaken, and she gripped the doorframe to stay standing. Her heart didn't just break, it caved in. She stepped fully outside into the cooler night air, needing space, needing breath. The sky felt big enough to swallow her whole, and for the first time she wished it would. The air tasted metallic, like heartbreak and humiliation, mixing into something she never wanted to feel again. She pressed her back against the wall and closed her eyes. And then, like a cruel reminder, her mind showed her a memory she had buried deep. The memory was bright, warm, loving. She stood in a simple white gown, holding Daniel's hands at their wedding. He looked into her eyes with hope, with promise, with the fire of a man who wanted a future with her. He squeezed her fingers gently and whispered, "I'll never embarrass you, Mia. I'll protect you. I'll stand beside you no matter what." Her younger self smiled, believing every word, believing him, believing love, believing the life they were about to build. They had no house then, no savings, no status, just dreams. She remembered thinking, even if we stay poor, it's okay. We have each other. But the memory shattered as quickly as it came, replaced by the sight of Daniel walking away with another woman, the same man who had promised her forever. She opened her eyes and tears slid down her cheeks silently. Daniel didn't just embarrass her tonight, he destroyed her. Her phone buzzed in her hand. She didn't want to look, but she did. A message from Daniel. Daniel, don't wait up. Vanessa needs a ride home. The words punched the air out of her lungs. His betrayal wasn't hidden. It wasn't silent. It wasn't confused or accidental. It was intentional. And he sent it like a casual update, like she was nothing more than an inconvenience. Her heart cracked so loudly she could almost hear it. She stared at the text for a long moment, unable to breathe. Then something changed in her eyes. The hurt didn't fade, but something cold, clean, and sharp formed behind it. Not anger, not rage, clarity. She opened her messages and started typing. Daniel, I need to tell you something. Her thumb hovered over the screen. This was the message she had planned to send earlier. The message that would have changed everything. The message that would have made her vulnerable, hopeful, trusting. But now, she saw the truth. Daniel didn't deserve her truth. He didn't deserve her heart. He didn't deserve the $20 million she had wanted to share. He didn't deserve a single part of her. Mia took a deep breath and hit delete. The entire draft disappeared. Her hand didn't shake this time. She slipped the phone into her purse and walked toward the parking lot, shoes scraping the pavement, dress clinging slightly to her legs. Each step away from the party felt like a step away from the version of herself that always stayed quiet. She pushed open the gate that led to the dark parking area and moved between parked cars, the party music fading behind her. Her phone buzzed again. For a second, she thought, it's him, maybe an apology, maybe another excuse. But the screen showed unknown number. A new message appeared. Mrs. Taylor, regarding your $20 million jackpot win, we need to speak urgently. This is the state lottery office. Please contact us tomorrow during business hours using the number provided in your confirmation letter. Her breath caught. They weren't scammers. The message matched the official contact number printed on the letter she had opened earlier. It was real. All of it was real. The party had taken her husband. The envelope had given her a new future. She stared at the message, standing between cold cars and broken promises. Slowly, she whispered into the dark, okay, then I won't just cry about this. She unlocked her car with a soft beep, slid into the driver's seat, and gripped the steering wheel with both hands. As she started the engine, her eyes were no longer filled only with pain. They held a plan she hadn't fully formed yet, but would. Tonight was the end of one life and the beginning of a much stronger one. The intensity hit the second Mia stepped inside the house. She pushed the door open hard, so hard it bounced off the wall. The echo filled the empty living room like a thunderclap, breaking the silence that had lived there long before tonight. Her breath was loud, her heartbeat violent, her hands shaking. She walked in with the posture of someone whose world had collapsed, but whose spine refused to bend again. Not tonight, maybe never again. She slammed her purse on the table, the sound sharp in the dim room. The lights were low. Daniel never left them on, but tonight that darkness felt oddly fitting. Her eyes burned, but no tears came. Pain was present, heavy, sitting in her chest like a stone. But something stronger sat behind it, determination. As she kicked off her worn shoes, her mind flashed briefly to the text from the lottery office. Regarding your $20 million jackpot win, they wanted to speak urgently tomorrow. They were waiting. Her future was waiting. But first, she needed to close the door on her past. Slowly, she walked across the living room and stood before the small wooden table where she kept her most personal things. Her wedding ring box, a tiny framed picture from their honeymoon, and the drawer where she had hidden the lottery envelope earlier that morning. Her hand trembled as she reached for the ring on her finger. She held it between her fingers for a long moment, feeling its coldness. This ring once symbolized loyalty, hope, love. Now it felt like a lie she'd been wearing on her hand. She slid it off. The metal made a faint clink as she placed it on the table, right beside the golden lottery envelope that held her $20 million truth. And then she whispered, barely audible, "Enough!" The word didn't feel weak. It felt like release. Her phone buzzed. She looked down. Anna calling. Anna Morgan, 30 years old, Mia's closest friend since high school. A sharp thinker, a straight talker, and the first person who ever warned Mia about Daniel's obsession with status. Anna had said many times, "Mia, he doesn't love you. He loves what you do for him." Mia ignored it for years. Tonight, she finally saw it. She answered the call with a shaky breath. "Mia, are you home? Are you safe?" Anna asked immediately. "Yes," Mia whispered. "You sound different." "I am different." Anna waited, sensing something had snapped. "Tell me what happened." Mia's voice cracked, but her words didn't hesitate. "He left with her, Anna. He told people I was nobody. He told her he wasn't married." Silence, then Anna's voice hardened. "Mia, you don't deserve this." "I know." Her tone was steady. "I see it now." Anna exhaled slowly. "Do you want me to come over?" "No," Mia said softly. "I need something else." "What do you need?" Mia took a breath, looked at the ring on the table, then at the envelope, and she said the words she never imagined saying out loud. "You were right. I need that lawyer's number." Anna didn't gasp. She didn't hesitate. She simply said, "I'll text it now. He helped my cousin with her divorce. He's good and he doesn't scare easy." The moment the call ended, Mia moved with a purpose she had never felt before. She sat at the dining table, opened her phone, and began gathering evidence. Not because she wanted revenge yet, but because she needed truth documented. She opened social media. The party had already begun to appear in posts and short clips. People loved showing off where they'd been. She saved screenshots of Daniel's text messages, claiming he wasn't really married. She downloaded photos guests had posted, pictures of Daniel and Vanessa laughing close together near the balcony doors. She saved a video that someone had recorded of Daniel leaving the hall with Vanessa. She bookmarked comments from guests whispering about his behavior. Every piece of evidence felt like a brick in the foundation of a new life she was building, a life without Daniel. Then she took her phone, carefully opened the golden envelope, and snapped clear photos of the lottery confirmation letter. She also screenshotted the text from the official lottery number. She created a hidden folder, locking everything with a password only she knew. Her last action of the night, she typed a short email to the lawyer Anna had recommended, attaching all the files in writing, "I need to protect myself. My name is Mia Taylor." She hit send. The timestamp read just before midnight. As she organized the screenshots and saw the email leave her outbox, her mind replayed Anna's old warnings. He only chases power. He loves attention more than he loves you. One day you'll see him clearly. Mia had always brushed it off. She believed love could fix anything. She believed loyalty would be enough. She believed Daniel wanted her beside him. But tonight showed her something different. Daniel didn't need a wife. He needed a ladder. And he climbed it by stepping on her. She grabbed the ring one more time, stared at it, then set it down firmly. Then she placed the lottery envelope right beside it. Two symbols, two choices, two futures, her past and her power sitting side by side. She stared at them with new eyes, cold, sharp, awake. Then in a whisper that carried both heartbreak and rising fire, she said, "If he wants a richer woman, let's give him the shock of his life. Tomorrow the lawyer will hear everything." The intensity hit from the moment Mia stepped into the lawyer's office. The door closed behind her with a sharp click, and the room fell silent, too silent. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears as she sat in a leather chair, facing a man who looked like he specialized in breaking illusions. This was Richard Cole, mid-40s, divorce and financial lawyer, known for being calm, sharp, and brutally honest. His office was neat, filled with dark wooden shelves, thick books, and framed certificates. Everything about him said prepared. Richard folded his hands, leaned forward, and studied her face with a seriousness that made the air feel heavier. "Mia," he said, voice firm but gentle, "I reviewed the documents you sent at midnight. The texts, the photos, the video, and..." He tapped a gold folder on his desk. Your lottery confirmation and the message from the lottery office. Her stomach tightened. Richard opened the folder and slid a thick stack of papers across the desk toward her. This, he said, is the beginning of your divorce. Mia stared at the papers. Divorce. The word didn't feel like destruction anymore. It felt like truth. Her fingers hovered over the folder, unable to touch it yet. Richard continued, voice steady, professional, but not cold. Before we move forward, you need to understand something very important. He flipped to another page and pointed to a paragraph highlighted in yellow. Your $20 million winnings, he said slowly, belong to you alone under our state's law. You bought the ticket yourself. You kept it separate. You received the confirmation letter before he knew anything, and his betrayal began before he had any knowledge of the money. He looked up to make sure she was following. Courts here treat that as your separate property, not marital assets. He has no legal right to any of it. Mia felt her breath catch. No right, not a dollar, not a cent. Everything she feared, everything she protected, everything she hid. She was right to hide it. A tremble passed through her chest, not from fear, but from relief. Richard leaned back, watching her reaction carefully. You're free to walk away with your future intact, he said. This divorce will not cost you anything you earned. For the first time in days, her shoulders lowered. She whispered, thank you. I didn't know if I still had anything left. Richard shook his head gently. You have everything left, Mia. He just didn't see it. Those words hit deep. Richard straightened a stack of documents. Now, he said, about the evidence, the videos, the lies, him leaving with another woman, his text messages claiming he wasn't married. He tapped the file. It's more than enough for a clean, strong divorce filing. Very hard for him to argue against. We also requested a standard financial conduct review. Given his behavior and past loan attempts, the court will want to see how he's been handling money. Mia nodded slowly, absorbing each word. He looked at her more closely. You're calm, he observed. Most people cry in this chair. Mia breathed deeply. I already did my crying, she said quietly. Now, I want to protect myself. And you will, Richard said. That's why I asked you here today, instead of making you wait. He opened another folder, a thin one this time. This, he said, is the service request. Mia looked up. What does that mean? It means, Richard explained, your husband will be formally handed the divorce papers, but it's your choice how he receives them. He leaned in, voice low, almost like he was inviting her into something bigger. Do you want this served privately or publicly? The question hung in the air, thick and heavy. Mia closed her eyes briefly. She saw the party, the whispers, the recorded video, Daniel walking away with Vanessa. Not married, not really, nobody important. She opened her eyes, steady, sharp, unafraid. Publicly, she said, with witnesses. Richard nodded slowly, a knowing smile forming. I thought you'd say that. The tone of the room shifted. Mia wasn't the woman who walked into this office weak and broken. She was a woman reclaiming her life. Richard slid one last document toward her. Sign here and I'll begin the process. Once this is filed, Daniel won't have access to your assets, your home, or your future. The court will also notify him of the financial conduct review hearing. Mia lifted the pen. Her hand didn't shake. She signed. The line of ink on the paper felt like the line between past and future. Richard gathered the papers with a satisfied nod. Well, he said, standing, the moment these hit his hands, he'll realize his entire plan just collapsed. Richard gave her a confident smirk. He won't see this coming. Tomorrow the papers will find him, but not where he expects. The intensity exploded the moment Daniel stepped into the trendy lunch spot with Vanessa on his arm. Heads turned, music thumped lightly, silverware clinked. People whispered when they saw Vanessa's sparkling gold dress, recycled from the party, as if she wanted to relive the glow, and Daniel walking beside her like he finally belonged somewhere important. Daniel's chest rose with pride. He felt taller, richer, admired. He chuckled loudly, guiding Vanessa to the front desk as if he owned the place. But the moment they approached the host stand, a server stepped forward, A young man, early 20s, neat haircut, polite posture. His name tag read Evan. He held a sealed envelope in his hand. "Are you Daniel Taylor?" Evan asked. Daniel smirked, pleased that someone recognized him. "Yes, that's me." Evan extended the envelope. "This is for you, sir. You were requested to receive it in person, with witnesses present." Daniel frowned. "In person? Requested by who?" The server simply said, "By order of the court," then walked away to refill water at a nearby table. The restaurant noise suddenly faded. Daniel stared at the envelope, confused, sensing a threat he couldn't name. He ripped it open impatiently. His eyes widened. The first page shouted in bold letters, "Divorce petition, Emia Taylor versus Daniel Taylor." The intensity slammed through him so hard he stumbled backward into a chair. What is this?" he stuttered. Vanessa raised an eyebrow, annoyed at the sudden spectacle. "What's going on?" Daniel flipped through the pages quickly, panic rising in his throat like fire. He saw the list of evidence, photos, videos, messages, all real, all undeniable, all against him. Then Vanessa grabbed a page from his shaking hands. "Give me that." She started reading aloud, voice dripping with disbelief. "Petitioner has disclosed recent financial gain, totaling $20 million. Her voice choked. She froze. Her eyes snapped up. 20 million? Daniel's world collapsed in slow motion. The entire restaurant seemed to hear her voice echo. $20 million. People turned. Forks paused midair. Heads leaned in. Daniel's mouth fell open. Mia has what?" Vanessa's face twisted with fury. "You told me she was poor." Daniel stepped toward her, desperate. She is. I mean, she was. I didn't know. She didn't tell me." Vanessa slammed the papers against his chest. "You idiot!" Her voice cut through the restaurant like a whip. People stared openly now. Phones lifted. Cameras recorded. Daniel felt heat rise under his collar. His mouth opened and closed helplessly. Vanessa stepped back, pointing a finger at him like he was a disease. "You told me you were practically single. You lied to me. And you left your wife, your wealthy wife, for me? Are you crazy?" Daniel's jaw clenched as humiliation flooded his face. He tried reaching for her arm. "Vanessa, please." "Don't touch me," she snapped, loud enough that an older couple gasped from their table. She grabbed her purse and swung it over her shoulder. "You are broke, you are stupid, and now you're divorced and humiliated." She spat the final blow. "I don't date losers." Then in front of the entire restaurant, Vanessa shoved the chair aside and stormed toward the exit. Daniel stared after her, pale and shaking. "No, Vanessa! Vanessa, wait!" He ran after her, nearly tripping over someone's bag. The restaurant erupted in whispers. Is that the guy who abandoned his wife at the party? He cheated and missed out on 20 million? Wow, karma hits fast. Daniel pushed through the doors so hard they slammed into the wall. Outside, Vanessa was already walking fast, heels striking the pavement like gunshots. "Vanessa, stop!" Daniel begged, voice cracking. She didn't stop. She didn't look back. He reached for her arm. She yanked it away. "Lose my number," she said coldly, "and stay away." Then she got into a rideshare car and shut the door in his face. Daniel stood alone on the sidewalk, shaking, breathing hard, sweating as humiliation wrapped around him like a rope. He whispered to himself, horrified, "She had 20 million, and I left her?" Reality hit him so brutally he almost collapsed. Inside the restaurant, Evan the server stepped out, holding a second document. "Sir," he called out, "there's another notice for you." Daniel turned slowly, eyes wide and terrified. "What? Now?" Evan held it forward. "Court appearance. Mandate financial conduct review. Marital assets." Daniel's knees weakened. He clutched both envelopes like anchors pulling him down. A quiet foreshadowing whisper. And the courtroom would reveal far more than betrayal? The intensity struck immediately. By the time Mia stepped out of the courthouse, the air felt different. Lighter, sharper, almost electric. After weeks of filings, hearings, and signatures, her divorce was finalized. Her evidence was accepted. Her freedom was officially stamped, signed, and approved. Camera flashes flickered as curious passersby whispered, "That's the woman with the 20 million. She left her cheating husband just like that." Powerful, but Mia didn't flinch. She walked straight to her car, each step solid, almost graceful. Her hands no longer shook. Her eyes no longer carried fear. Something inside her had shifted forever. She knew that inside those courthouse walls, documents now existed that clearly stated the lottery winnings were hers alone. Daniel had no claim to her money. His behavior, recorded and filed, would follow him longer than his excuses. As she opened the car door, her phone buzzed violently. Daniel calling again. She let it ring. She let him wait. She wasn't his hidden support anymore. She wasn't his backup plan. She wasn't his shadow. Not today, not ever again. Hours later, Mia arrived at her new home, a quiet, elegant place she had chosen for herself after the court approved the division of property. It wasn't grand or flashy. It wasn't about proving anything. It was simply peaceful. Warm brown walls, soft lighting, everything clean and uncluttered, a place where she could breathe. She stood in the doorway for a long moment, soaking it in. This was her space, her refuge, her beginning. She placed her bag down and took out the one thing she had carried through everything, the lottery envelope. She held it in her hands, staring at the crease in the paper. This envelope had changed her life, but not in the way Daniel would have imagined. It didn't make her greedy. It didn't make her loud. It didn't even make her proud. It simply gave her choices, choices she had never been allowed to make before. She opened her new safe, small, hidden behind a sliding panel, and placed the envelope inside. She also slid in a copy of the final court order, the pages that declared her legally free and financially protected. She pressed her thumb on the lock. The safe clicked shut. The sound felt like the closing of an old, painful chapter. Her mother's voice echoed softly in her memory, as if floating on warm air. "Money doesn't change who people are, Mia. It reveals them." Mia inhaled deeply. Her mother had been right about everything. A brief flashback followed. Young Mia sitting on the kitchen floor, counting coins in a jar. Her mom smiling gently. Her dad tapping her shoulder saying, "We save so we don't depend on the wrong people." Her mom adding, "And we love carefully, not blindly." Back then, those words felt like old sayings. Now they felt like prophecy. Her peace was interrupted by her phone vibrating violently again. Daniel, calling, again. This time she answered, not because she owed him anything, but because she wanted closure. He sounded like a broken man. Mia, please, I'm begging you. Just hear me out." His voice cracked with each breath. "I didn't know about the money. If I knew, if you told me, I never would have left." She closed her eyes slowly. There it was. The truth she expected. The truth that proved everything. "It should not have mattered," she said softly. "But it does," he cried. "It does. It changes everything. We can fix this. Please, Mia. We can start again. I'll do better, I promise." She walked toward the window, looking over the quiet garden outside. "You already made your choice, Daniel," she whispered. "You made it the moment you told someone else I was nobody." He sucked in a shaking breath. "Mia, do you still love me?" The question hung in the air. The old Mia, the one who ironed his shirts, the one who hid her tears, the one who blamed herself, might have tried to answer kindly. But the new Mia, she simply ended the call. No explanation, no apology, no second chance. Silence filled the room, a peaceful silence, a powerful silence. She placed the phone down gently, like setting down something fragile that had finally cracked open. Mia walked to the kitchen, made herself a cup of tea, and leaned against the counter. She whispered to herself, "Sometimes silence is the loudest revenge." Her lips curved into a soft, calm smile. But then, her phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Daniel. It was a message from her lawyer. "Mia, we need to talk. Something new just came in regarding Daniel, connected to the financial conduct review. Call me when you're ready." Her smile faded slowly. She straightened. A new chapter, already waiting.